Next, we will start learning about Huawei WLAN products. Today, we will mainly discuss WLAN products. We will talk about products based on both Wi-Fi 5 and Wi-Fi 6 series. Whether it's Wi-Fi 5 or Wi-Fi 6, we categorize APs into two main types. One is indoor, the other is outdoor. At the same time, indoor APs are further subdivided into more detailed categories. Our previous indoor APs were divided into indoor fixed installation, indoor distributed, and panel types. That was the previous categorization. For indoor fixed installation, all the APs on the top row are for indoor fixed installation. But for indoor distributed, we now use agile distribution because of some drawbacks in the old method. Agile distributed APs have replaced our indoor distributed APs. Panel APs are still retained. Based on our different needs, we choose different APs for deployment and use. Generally, indoor fixed installation APs are used in large open spaces, offices, shopping malls, etc. We use indoor fixed installation APs in these places. Agile distributed APs are mainly used in hotels, dormitories, and medical facilities. Panel APs are mainly used when funds are limited. They can also be used in hotels, small offices, or for home use. Like some of the home use products on the market today, they are based on the AC plus thin AP architecture. They all use panel APs. You can look it up online. This is about indoor APs. At the same time, we also have the second major category, outdoor APs. Outdoors, we mostly categorize based on antennas. Antennas are divided into directional and omnidirectional. Directional antennas are perhaps used more frequently. Besides outdoor backhaul that definitely uses directional APs, other deployments can consider whether to use directional or omnidirectional based on their own assessment. Our outdoor APs basically fall into these types. Let's continue on. It's the same with Wi-Fi 6. The difference lies in the speed of Wi-Fi 6. You can see that Wi-Fi 6's speed is much faster compared to Wi-Fi 5. Let's look at the previous slide in the PPT. Wi-Fi 5's highest speed is 2.53 Gbps, whereas Wi-Fi 6 is 10.75 Gbps. So the gap is right there. Here, we just briefly understand the full family of Huawei APs. Next, we will specifically introduce the features of each device. First, let's look at the AC. Starting with the AC. First, we have the AC6508V. It looks very impressive, right? It's similar to a server, and it can accommodate hard drives. Firstly, it has a 2U size. Ports include 6GE, 610GE. Of course, it can be equipped with different network cards to match high traffic. It also supports 40GE network cards. If your traffic is very high, of course, you can choose 40GE. Forwarding capability. The whole machine's forwarding capability is 60G. It can manage up to 10K, that is 10,000 APs. The maximum number of accessible users is 100K, that is 100,000 users, maximum. Supports Layer 2 and Layer 3 networking. Generally, we support this. In terms of redundancy, it supports 1+1 hot standby, N+1 backup, all possible. Wireless protocols are all supported. A, B, G, N, AC, AC, Wave 2, AX. Supports from 802.11a to Wi-Fi 6. Suitable scenarios. This device is not suitable for small businesses. Of course, it is intended for use in large enterprises. Looking at its hardware structure, the left image is the front panel, and the right image is the back panel. We took a brief look earlier. It has removable hard drives, 1, 3, 2 USB ports, can incorporate a built-in optical drive. Then there's a VGA port and a tag card. From the front panel, it looks almost exactly like a server. Now looking at the back panel. Our business ports are accessed from the back panel. Its rear panel has 10 GE optical ports. 1, 2, 4 are all locations for these. 6 has 2 GE ports. 7 is a maintenance port. 9 is a USB port. 11 has 2 power modules. We just need a basic understanding of the hardware structure. Now let's look at the AC6085. The order of AC introduction here is from high-end to low-end. It encompasses all standalone AC products. Earlier we discussed the 6800V, now it's the 6805. Compared to the 6800, it's definitely weaker. Its size is 1U, which already seems a bit weaker. It still supports quite a number of interfaces. All are Layer 2 ports. 12 GE ports, 12 10GE optical ports. 2 40GE ports, one of which and 4 of the 10G are mutually exclusive. That is, if you use the 40GE, some of the middle 10GE ports cannot be used. The whole machine's forwarding capability is 40G. It can manage up to 6K. Compared to the 6800V, it has 4K less. A user count of 64K is actually still acceptable. This device is also intended for use in large enterprises. Generally speaking, being able to manage 6,000 APs is already a lot. Let's take a look at what its front and back panels are like. On the front panel, we can see the multi-purpose interface at position 3. These 4 ports are mutually exclusive with the 240GE ports. If you use this, you cannot use the front ones. If you use the front ones, you can't use the back ones. There is also a reset button to reset our configurations. 7 is for management and console ports. Then, looking at the back panel. 9 is for removable fans. 10 and 11 are for plugging in the power supply. Then 8 is a grounding wire. Next, we see the AirEngine series. In terms of performance, the 9700M is quite a bit behind the 6805. We see it as 1U. This device looks the same as the previous 6085. It has 16 GE ports, 12 10GE ports. It also has 240 GE ports, where 140 GE and 410 GE are mutually exclusive. Then, looking at its forwarding capability, it's half that of the 6805. The 6805 is 40G. This is 20G. It can manage up to 2048 APs, about 4,000 fewer. The number of accessible users is 32K, half as many. Wireless protocols are all supported, including the 2 devices mentioned above. Both support Wi-Fi 6. It can be used to build medium to large campus networks, enterprise office networks, wireless metropolitan area networks, hotspot coverage, etc. The hardware structure is basically not much different from the previous 6085. Just understand it briefly. Let's look at another one. Ignoring the size and focusing only on the appearance. A very elegant-looking AC. The AC6508 is a small box-type wireless access controller that Huawei has launched for small to medium-sized enterprises. It has a front panel on top and a back panel below. Note that its power input is different. Its power supply uses a smaller plug, not the 3-pronged plug mentioned earlier. It also comes with an adapter. Also, its ears. Make sure to purchase the ears when buying the 6508. Otherwise, it cannot be mounted on a rack because its width is too short to fit in a standard cabinet. Its height is still 1U, and it has 10 GE ports and 2 10GE uplink ports. In terms of forwarding capability, it's significantly lower than previous devices, only 6G. The 9700M has 20G, but this drops to 6G, making it clearly intended for smaller networks. It's suitable for use in small businesses. It can manage up to 256 APs, support a maximum of 4K users, and also supports Wi-Fi 6. This AC can be used to build small to medium-sized campus networks, enterprise office networks, wireless metropolitan area networks, and hotspot coverage. Moving on, let's look at the front and back panels of the 6508 AC. The front panel is quite simple, no need for further explanation. The back has a management port, which is the console port. It does not have a separate management port. So, if used in a lab environment and frequently restarted, be cautious about preventing loops, as all these are layer 2 ports. There's a reset button. A short press of less than 3 seconds is used for manual device reset. Pressing the reset button will cause a service interruption, so be careful with this button. A long press of more than 5 seconds is used to restore factory settings and restart. Next, let's look at indoor APs. Here, we mainly introduce 3 models: 8760, 6760, 5760. These APs are categorized into flagship, high-end, and mid-low-end models. This one in the picture is Huawei's latest flagship AP. Of course, it is our most powerful AP to date. This AP features a built-in smart antenna, dynamically adjusting the signal based on user movement, greatly enhancing the wireless network experience. It supports optical electrical uplink ports, facilitating flexible deployment in various scenarios. It can be used to set up medium to large campus networks, corporate office networks, wireless metropolitan networks, and hotspot coverage areas. Suitable for enterprise offices, government, higher education, general education, and other scenarios. Let's take a closer look at its radio frequency modes. It supports dual radio frequencies of 2.4 GHz and 5 GHz, providing services simultaneously. We see that its total maximum rate can reach up to 10.75 Gbps. It supports 3 radio frequency modes: dual band, tri-band, or dual band, with a dedicated scanning mode. The spatial streams for these modes are different. We can see that the spatial stream for 2.4 GHz is 4x4. If it's dual band, the 5 GHz can reach 12x12 spatial streams. Of course, the actual maximum spatial streams achievable are 8. If it's tri-band, the spatial streams can reach 8x8 plus 4x4. Now, let's look at the independent scanning frequency. Generally, choosing this mode with dedicated scanning frequency is quite good. Why? Let's see what features independent frequency scanning has. Here, it has a built-in dedicated scanning module, which timely tunes the system by detecting interference and unauthorized devices in real time. Detecting interference and unauthorized devices ensures security. When conducting WIDS, Wireless Intrusion Detection System, and YPS, Wireless Intrusion Prevention System, using a dedicated scanning frequency doesn't affect our main business services. If we were to run business services and scanning simultaneously, especially when doing WIDs and WIPs, it could significantly impact our WLAN services. Of course, if we use dedicated scanning, the impact will be less. At the same time, we can also optimize the network. If you have studied Huawei WLAN tuning, you should know that Huawei has 4 types of dynamic tuning. There's dynamic channel adjustment, dynamic power adjustment, dynamic frequency band adjustment, and dynamic bandwidth adjustment. Through our independent radio frequency scanning, it can scan the signal strength around us, for example, our bandwidth and channels, etc., and ultimately make timely adjustments. This is its independent scanning functionality. This device also has 2 10GE electrical ports and 1 GE optical port, supports built-in IoT modules, smart antennas, and built-in Bluetooth. At the same time, it supports thin APs, fat APs, and cloud management modes. These features of the AP should be understood. Next, let's look at its hardware structure. The front panel doesn't need explanation. The back panel has a security lock, which isn't too important. Ports 2 and 3 are 2 10GE ports, both capable of powering, meaning both ports can transmit data and power. It can support up to 20 GE uplink. And there's also an optical port. Port 6 is a default, used for restoring default settings. The IoT slot is at position 8, and here at 9 are some RF interfaces. This is the AP model. Next is our high-end or mid-high-end model, the 6760. Its appearance is similar to the 8760, and it also has a very high total speed. However, some of its other features might be slightly weaker compared to the 8760. We can see that its dual frequency plus independent scanning mode only has a 6x6 spatial stream. Our previous 8760 supported a 4x4x8x8 spatial stream. But in tri-band mode, its speed is basically comparable to the 8760. Then its interfaces: 1 10GE electrical port, 1 GE electrical port, and 1 10GE optical port. Isn't there one less 10GE electrical port? Otherwise, it's pretty much the same, and also supports 3 RF modes. Let's look at the back panel again. Actually, it's basically the same as our 8760. But this port 2 does not support PoE, Power over Ethernet.